All right, welcome back to the Remedial Film Class Podcast Fall Break, as we drag George willfully, willingly, consentingly, as we lead George with his own consent through the history of Crystal Lake. How you doing, George?
I'm all right.
He's such a trooper.
He is a trooper.
We spread this shit out over like 15 years, and he's doing it every week.
I am a trooper.
Are you a super trooper?
He's super trooper.
No.
Meow.
I have seen that though. I have seen Super Troopers.
That you've seen.
Yeah.
Haven't seen this movie, but you've seen.
Yeah.
We're doing our job.
I'll tell you
Dan.
what, Super Troopers better than some of these movies.
Was that the
Some
lady
of
from
them.
Us? Did she just walk through?
You're not talking correctly. Yeah. Ugh.
So tonight, as we've been flexible with the format so far, we continue to be so. We're going to be discussing both Part 7, The New Blood, and I'm laughing at my own joke, sorry. And then Part 8,
The new blood.
Part 8, Friday the 13th, Part 8, Jason Takes Vancouver.
Nice.
So we'll just pretend that these are two separate conversations, but we're having them back to back. So if things get a little slap happy, you're getting your money's worth.
Yeah, that's how I feel.
All right, George.
Yes, sir.
Lately, you've been hitting me with your notes right up front just to
Oh, you want to hear my notes, huh?
batter me about the head with your feelings.
All right. Part 7. I don't have a lot of notes for Part 7, but I'll read them. I got a little bit. Interesting way to get Jason out of the lake. I can see a very unique struggle between this Tina girl and Jason. That was, talking about Tina's powers. It's a very good way to...
Wait, she had powers?
Whatever, her telepathic... She was using the Force or something. I don't know.
Using the Force. Yes.
Whoa, Mom's hair is rad.
Nice mullet.
Is that a mullet?
I don't know.
I thought she was wearing a
definitely-
motorcycle helmet the whole time.
It looks something. It's definitely...
I remember a lot of moms with that
Something.
haircut, though, so it's fun.
I'm pretty sure she just stole the Bay of Blood guy's haircut. The Spaceballs helmet.
Or she stole David the vampire's hair from Lost Boys.
Joey Gladstone, circa 1994.
Joey Gladstone.
Shall I continue?
Yes.
Yeah, go
Can't
on.
wait for this Dr. Clyde guy to get a hatchet in the face. The kills look really good so far. Normal Jason affair, etc. Love the gun. The Tina Jason fight was pretty lit. Absolutely hated the ending. I don't think I like Invulnerable Jason.
Invulnerable Jason.
Yeah.
Okay. And why is that?
I don't know, that's just how I was feeling.
Did you feel that
was
way in
like,
Part
this is-
6? Did you look at Part 6, Invincible Jason, and think, oh, I don't like this guy either?
He was pretty new at that point. When did he become invulnerable? 4, right?
No, it was Part
No.
6.
It was part 6?
That's when
They're
superhero
all-
Jason began.
Yeah, they're all blended together.
Mhm.
Yeah, so Part 6 was the first invulnerable Jason. At first, I thought it was pretty cool.
Okay.
I definitely didn't like the way the way in which they resurrected him in 6. How that
Like
happened.
Frankenstein style with
Yeah,
the lightning.
I was like, that's okay, whatever.
Hold on.
I don't
Hold
know.
on.
But at the time, it was the most feasible way to have reanimated flesh.
Are you
is
telling me,
to
George,
Frankenstein 'em.
that you didn't like the Universal Monsterification of Jason, but when Carrie pulled him out of the water with her telekinetic powers, you were like, yeah, all right.
No, I was being sarcastic when I said that was interesting.
Oh. That didn't come through in your reading. We're going to need
No.
to take
No,
two.
Sounded
I mean,
very
like-
exciting.
I was just like, oh, yeah, that's an interesting way to put, to get Jason out of a lake. It's kind of like, in the past I've said, oh, that's an interesting way to continue making money on this franchise. Like, it was just, it's like that. Like, okay.
Well, do you notice a trend?
yeah,
It's kind of like what we're going to be talking about is the trend.
Yeah, we're
The money grab.
We're definitely grabbing money here.
Yeah.
I don't know. Part 7 was okay. It was a pretty regular Jason movie. Like I said, the kills were rad. The hair was rad. You know, it was pretty good. It didn't have, you know, the worst acting I've ever seen in any Jason movie. It was actually, you know, serviceable. It was pretty good.
Well, I really enjoy. Again, Nostalgia Travis is going to talk. This is one of my favorites because of a lot of the things you're talking about. This is my Jason, basically. I was old enough to really understand what was going on, and
The 80s.
well, yeah, I mean, yeah, late 80s when I was actually allowed to rent. Like, I remember going in and renting this and Jason Lives like on the same night. I remember doing that, seeing the VHS on the shelf. The artwork on the box was amazing, and bringing it home and just seeing the zombie Jason on the back of the box. I was like, oh yeah, this is gonna be good.
And that was the night you became a man.
Man, Jason bones everywhere. Just the rib cage and the chipped away mask from the propeller blade, and you can see his teeth, and then just the whole package. I was on board. But the opening sequence really kind of, to me, was the best beginning of almost all of them.
Of part 6?
No, of 7.
Of 7?
That montage of like a recap of all the movies at one time.
Okay.
It kind of put me in it. Like, I was like, okay, yeah, this is they're recognizing every movie. They're taking everything that's good from every movie, and they're going to put it all in this movie. That's the way I looked at it.
Okay.
Did you catch that?
So I was hyped.
The narrator at the beginning of part 7, George, is the "you're all doomed" guy.
No.
Yeah,
Was
it's
it?
that guy.
Wow.
Yeah.
I remember the narration being pretty cool, but I didn't put the voice to a face.
Well, he didn't drag it out as much as he would his own
right.
performance. But yeah, other than part 4 that I think does the job a little bit more grittily, the part 7's beginning is off the chain, as some children might say.
Yeah, I was digging it. And I forgot about it. So watching it recently, I was like, yes, that's good stuff.
I was really digging the continuity at the beginning. Did you catch that the work gloves from part 6 that you were so adamant we talked about last week were still on his hands when he was first under the lake with little Tina?
Mm-hmm.
And then, you see the passage of time, and that's the continued rotting, and then the emergence of scoliosis Jason, who has a wicked spine crank in the back. Man, he looks cool, though.
Who is jacked, like 290 muscle, but all his bones are showing.
The thing is, though, they shoot him really well, but he's not very tall.
No, he's like, what, 6'1"? He might even be under 6, because I remember standing next to him, and I was shocked at how short he was. So, yeah, you're right. He might be like 5'11". He probably puts it in the program at 6'1", but he's not 6'1". It's a football thing.
Mm.
Yeah, it's one of those things.
I lie about the size of my... never mind.
I try... Oh, jeez. To anyone who will listen, from what I understand.
I was also very excited with the Tina edition. I thought that she was a good change for the franchise. Like, it was well thought out, I thought, but then they kind of could have done more. Like, I was trying to think to myself, like, why didn't they connect her to Tommy Jarvis, or even have Tommy Jarvis be the Tina character, where they should have maybe did a callback to part 5 where maybe they met, so they knew each other. They were like maybe in that group therapy where they were realizing that they had a connection that travels over. It would have been cool if Tommy Jarvis was the one that maybe developed a way to help her, but they totally wrote him out.
Yeah, I think that doing something like that would be polishing a turd. If you really wanted to fix the plot of every movie past whatever 4, I don't know, they all run together.
Mm-hmm.
Don't zombie Jason. Don't invulnerable Jason.
Well, yeah.
Go with what happened. I think it was at the end of 4, where Tommy Jason is a thing, and the spirit of Jason, or like the mania of Jason, jumps. And so you still have invulnerable Jason, not like it's a Jason that you can't kill, because it's almost like the Matrix, where the whatever guys can inhabit anybody in the Matrix.
So I
Kind of
want
like
character continuity, and you want like entity Jason to just body jump.
Body jump only when after that body is totally spent.
Hey guys, it's Dan again, coming to you from Post. Can you believe, again, George is just like spitballing the plot of Part 9? He's going to love that one so much. Okay, back to the action.
Yeah, I don't know. Something to that effect. I don't like Frankenstein Jason. I don't like, being at the bottom of the lake for however many years and still being ripped when you come out. Like I like the more realistic Jason killer. Like 2 was amazing. 4 was great. I don't know. It just took the whole franchise in a direction that I'm kind of just like meh
So once
about.
he becomes undead, then it becomes supernatural. Then you have to buy into supernatural and all that stuff.
Right.
So yeah, it makes it less about a maniacal killer and more about the supernatural. So then it becomes more of a monster movie, which is what they wanted to do, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Now, one thing that George probably isn't as aware of because of his new and burgeoning relationship with popular cinema. How about that? It's a nice way of saying George
I like
ain't
it.
seen shit.
Yeah.
The thing
Fits
about
better on a t-shirt.
yeah, the thing about this movie, George, is we have crossed from Nightmare on Elm Street is a thing that made money to Nightmare on Elm Street is making more money than us. And so there's this pressure in the studio to up the level of competition with a killer who murders you in your dreams with your like personality flaws. And so this movie could have been Jason versus Freddy at one point, but they could never get the deal done with New Line, so they went with the next best thing, which was to take the character Carrie from the old Stephen King movie directed by Brian De Palma and just rename her because they couldn't get her either. And then put her in as Tina. Why they didn't just do like Eddie Mruger instead of Freddy Krueger, I don't think I'll ever understand, because if,
versus Mason.
if that's
Voorhees.
if that's what the market wanted, why didn't they just do some kind of dream demonic killer guy to compete with? I mean, what? If you're gonna go down the road of copying a character like note for note, and then just renaming them, why don't you do it with your actual competition instead of at this point already 10-year-old movie?
Well, I think at this time they did less of an homage to Carrie and more of just the total theft of Carrie. Like they were probably counting on the fact that most people wouldn't make the connection, and they just kind of lifted the idea of the Carrie character and didn't, like you're saying, make up a Freddy type character where he fights them supernaturally, but Freddy was so popular that would have been so blatant. So to take an older character with powers that would match up well, most people wouldn't even make the Carrie connection. Like I think I watched it maybe 4 times before I ever even thought of the parallel.
Now, George, do you
between
know
Carrie?
Are you familiar with Carrie?
No.
Did you know there was a movie called Carrie?
Nope.
Okay. All right. We'll note that for
I'm assuming that Carrie can move things with her mind, though.
a little bit. A little bit. So anyway, I guess that was definitely lost on George. I always made the connection, even as a kid. I don't know.
Right.
Maybe I'd seen Carrie early enough, or I don't know. But that's interesting it wasn't something that you even, Travis, connected, because you were into these movies at the time.
Yeah, but I think Carrie was that kind of movie where it came out in like the 70s, and it was not my bag. So I knew of it, and I knew the plot and everything. But by the time I saw this was 87, so we're talking 15, almost 15 years, and the one wasn't in my head to even think of it. Like I just thought this girl has powers, and it was kind of a supernatural way to battle a supernatural character. I never even put the two together until recently. So that's actually good on them. I guess they hit it enough for someone that knows the genre well enough to where I didn't even make that connection.
I mean, who would ever have expected the Friday the 13th franchise to steal from a 10-year-old movie?
Right. Well, it's not a giallo, so.
Well, I mean, Brian De Palma, the American Argento. So there's a connection there. That's funny.
That's true.
Interesting.
They're
Plus,
shameless.
Stephen King in the 80s is just omnipresent. You got Carpenter
Yes.
doing Christine. You got Stand By Me. You got a million stinking Stephen King
No, you're right.
movies.
I mean,
Like,
he was very popular. His stories, Cujo, all that stuff was very mainstream in the 80s. But Carrie was one of the first ones. And it was kind of about a girl, so it really wasn't up my alley. It wasn't.
Right, because you were into men.
Well, no, it was just not. To me, it was not a horror movie that I was watching.
Yeah,
I was
I mean,
watching more
any
like
movie that starts off with that much female nudity, I wouldn't expect Travis to be into.
I was 2 when it came out. No, wasn't that like 72 that came out?
I want to say 76, something like
76. Okay, so I was 1.
that. There you go.
Yeah. So, and it was sissy space.
He's like, no, it's not because I like men. It's because
It was sissy space
Blah, blah,
nudity.
blah, blah,
Listen,
blah.
my first word was boobies. Okay. You can ask my dad.
he's like, no. That's a.
I was basically the kid from Look Who's Talking. I'm like, lunch. Yeah.
I think we now call
That was
him Crotch Travis.
Crutch Travis. Yeah. It's now a 25-inch blade.
So, the scene at the beginning where she's trying to move that matchbook, the actual execution of that visual effect looks so much like it fell out of a Nightmare on Elm Street movie. Like, it's just like, it's the same production quality. It's the same era, obviously. Same techniques. But then they also hit it with, like, a very Freddy musical note. Like, the
Okay.
score at that point is just twinkle, twinkle sound, twinkle sound. It's nothing like the Carrie score. I went back to just double check. The Carrie score is very
Right.
much violins, just like anything after Psycho. No, that's Nightmare on Elm Street style music over a Nightmare on Elm Street effect. But instead of putting Freddy or Eddie in the movie, we got Carrie Tina.
Carrie. Now, time period wise, was this, I guess, around Nightmare 3, right? So that was like the peak.
Yeah, we've got
Of
peak Freddy
Nightmare.
going on right now.
Yeah. I did hear, go back and listen to it because I didn't mark exactly where it happened. There is an underlying Shining music in there. That dun 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 dun.
Oh, that's
dun,
interesting.
It's in there. I think when he's stalking someone in the woods. I don't know if it's around the first or second kill.
Before
but
all the
it's-
Manfredini like familiar stuff kicks in later in the
Yeah.
movie, because it does take
It's-
him till about 2/3 of the way through the movie before you start hearing stuff that really sounds like Jason music.
Mm-hmm. And it even gets to the part of the song where it goes dun 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 dun. It's like that whole beginning of The Shining is in that movie. I was like, I wonder why they would pick that song.
Stephen King, man.
They stole it.
Stephen
King.
Stinking King.
Good stuff. So, what are your takes?
So I have to see Nightmare on Elm Street and The Shining.
The Shining
And Carrie.
Carrie.
Yeah.
And Carrie.
And Christine. What the hell? While we're doing
Christine and Cujo.
What the heck?
Pet Cemetery. Oh, so many. We could do a season on Stephen King movies.
it. Oh, let's not.
Some of them are good though.
You know what my favorite part of this entire movie is?
What's that?
It's when the handsome main guy, whatever his name is, Nick, when right at the beginning of the movie, Nick goes, "Great asshole."
Great asshole.
Because the line is great asshole. But instead, the line read is great asshole. Which is
Punctuation matters.
punctuation
people.
is important,
Punctuation
but
does matter.
they ripped that off in the game, which we're getting closer to the game, guys, where some of the female characters will say something like, "How do you like that asshole?" Which is pretty good.
That's funny.
That's good.
That is good. So, again, my favorite part would have to be Jason. This is my favorite Jason.
Yeah, I can see that.
Hands down.
I mean, Jason looked good. The kills looked good. Like, I really liked the gore in this one. Yeah, they did a good job.
Fucking Kane Hodder. What do they call him? The angry Jason. Like, I was just watching. I'm like, he has anger management problems. Like he's almost like a 2-year-old temper tantrum walking around in the body of a
Mm-hmm.
9-foot robot.
He's going for like primal, I think, like an angry predator. But because of his lack of facial expression, it does sometimes just come off as, like, I just got cut off in traffic, and now you have the nerve to walk on my land. Like,
But yeah, it's his movements. Like it's just he's just an asshole in a mask, and he's just like everything is exaggerated, and like you said, because he doesn't have facial expression, so he's got to do everything. He's got to play to the guy in the back of the room. The whole theater role, and he's doing it up.
one thing about his performance in this movie, though, and I think it's not going to happen again that I can remember, but there's a point where you can tell he's trying to feel out, am I quick and nimble, or am I slow and lumbering? And so you'll get in the same scene a quick like juke where he's like, dodging to block somebody, and then like a slow lunge as they get away. And it's like, okay, can we just pick one? Like, are you fast or are you slow? I don't care. Just stick with it. And then he'll jump through a damn window, and you're like, oh, cool. He walked really slow, and then jumped hysterically, athletically through a window,
Right.
and now we're back to slow and lumbering again. Like, what? Huh?
Yeah, I love it all. I don't care. He can lumber all he wants.
My ears.
And jump through windows.
And
He
jump
doesn't
through
care.
windows.
Actually, that was a good way to incorporate the through the window. This time it was Jason.
Well, he
him.
does put a girl through a window too, doesn't he?
I don't remember.
The one girl that I can't remember her name, but
The names don't matter.
he
either.
throws her out of the second floor.
Oh yeah.
So someone does go through.
Yeah,
the
but this
window.
was usually the Jason thing is into the window from
Right.
outside, and this time instead of a body, it was
That
Jason.
would have been funny if he threw her from the ground through the second floor window.
Just watch it and rewind.
That would have been epic.
Just rewind it, and he forces her up into the window.
Yeah, there's a lot of good kills in this movie, I do have to say.
God, you guys probably didn't have this issue, but when that guy Dan showed up in the movie, my ears perked up. I was like, "Hey, it's a me finally!" And he was dressed like MacGruber, and his whole like story arc is that his wife won't, or his girl, I don't know, his lady friend won't put out until he goes and does like chores.
That sounds about right.
That hurt.
I'm so sorry.
That hurt a little bit. But I mean, it was almost like a Greek literature reference with the sex strike, right? We can pretend it's some kind of intellectual exercise when really it just hurt my feelings. But then we get
Dan sad face.
generic Crispin Glover, Eddie, the stoner guy who keeps rambling about sci-fi to anyone who will listen.
Yeah, he's the writer, right?
And I was just like, oh, geez, it's the dad from Back to the Future, but also he sounds like me talking about Jalo. So again,
Kind of true.
this movie kind of hurt me, guys.
Oh, show us where the movie touched you.
It was right there on the Jalo.
That's funny.
Jesus.
I feel bad for you. You get a heart emoji.
You get a care heart.
You get a care heart.
emoji.
I have to give Hodder some props because he is a stuntman. So, but he did every single stunt in that movie. Like, dude got lit on fire for a long time.
Yeah.
Like he almost died twice in this movie. And I'm like, yeah, kudos to you. And when if you ever see this guy in person, he literally has burns all over his body.
Yeah.
Like his skin looks like, somebody covered him in Elmer's glue and then just started rolling it up. Like it's a shame. Like he's probably been burned like 30 times. So he's like, yeah, I'll do that.
From various movies.
Yeah, like you just look at him and you can just see he's like a roadmap of terror.
Well, he had one real bad one early in his career that he talks about a lot. And I think ever since then, from what I can tell, it's almost like he feels like he can beat it, So he does more dangerous burns than you're going to see most actors do. And I think it's, this kind of like race to the end between him and fire. It's kind of, it's probably not healthy, but it makes for some compelling cinema.
Well, they dropped that roof on his head.
Yeah, that's
like
crazy.
That could have killed him. when he fell through the steps, they pre-cut the steps, but his head was like 2 inches from one of the steps that was not cut.
Ooh.
So falling back, he would have. I don't know if that would have killed him, but that would have been. I mean, he's at least 240 pounds. That would have not been good. But I mean, they hung him from the ceiling. They lit him on fire. All that stuff. To me, he did a lot more for that character than a lot of the other guys. He might not be the best Jason, but I think he was the most enthusiastic to play him. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I can see that.
Well, by part 7, he's like such an icon amongst the movie-going public that now it's not I'm going to be in a mask and I'm going to do a day's work. Now it's I'm going to be the star of this movie.
Right.
That's really the first time, maybe part 6, but really this is the first time it's really like credited up front. Kane Hodder as Jason Voorhees.
Right. I mean, CJ did a good job in 6.
He really did.
And he was another enthusiastic stuntman that was like, you know what, I'm going to make this. The guys in the earlier movies are like, oh, I just showed up and did what I had to do, and I wouldn't eat with anybody, and then I left. But these guys kind of took it to the next level.
Made sure no chicks got frozen in the lake when I went home.
But Kane, I mean, he's got the word kill tattooed inside his mouth. Like, he's ridiculous.
Whoa.
He's
But he
also in a
emotes.
lot of Steven Seagal movies. If you keep your eye on the background, every now and then Kane Hodder will show up and then be gone. And it's like, he's gone. Okay.
He also has a cameo in Part 8, which is pretty sweet.
You mean part 9?
Or 9. No. Oh, yeah, Part 9. Yes. That's when yes. We'll talk about that later.
We're not even talking about part 8. George hasn't seen part 8 as far as I'm concerned. Not for another 25 minutes until I get to the point that I feel like we're done talking about this movie. Jeez. Hey, guys, real quick before we go any further, the Columbian Express is pulling out. So if anybody wants to get on it, I think it's leaving your area right now. Colombian gold, man.
Colombian gold, man.
I was happy to hear that callback. I don't know if calling the same drug the same country's name is a really nice callback, but it was kind of a callback to the first one, I guess.
Kind of.
I don't know. This movie paid homage to a lot of earlier moments, but I thought it did so relatively effectively. Sometimes we'll see maybe in another movie we discuss soon, ham-fisted attempts to relive the glory days of earlier movies. But I thought this one did a pretty good job of like reframing things we'd seen before in new and kind of fun ways.
Including no character development.
Well, yeah.
That's a staple.
Yeah, like this movie, I was thinking this movie moves way too fast. Like, how quickly did Tina fall in love with what's his name?
Oh, you thought this movie?
I mean,
Sorry, we're not talking about 8 yet.
No, but I mean, it gets worse as we go along. Like, it's like
sure does.
all of a sudden they're like, all right, we're just going to line these lambs up. But like, they had a chance to really develop some of these characters into something special, and they just like, nah, we're going to spend 5 minutes here and then
all that stuff. In my opinion, character development, like any kind of consistency, just forget about it. Like,
I don't want to. Though.
It
makes it a lot better. You'll understand what I'm talking about when we get to movies like Scream and whatever, where you're like, okay, this is what everybody's been bitching about.
Yes.
So yeah.
You
that's when it goes from a C movie to an A movie. 7, Silence of the Lambs. They could have been easily B movies. They're horror movies, but they spent the time to develop these characters to the point where now they're Oscar award-winning movies. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no.
Same kind of movie.
Yes, I hear you, but yes, I hear you. This franchise has already established that they don't give a crap about consistency or, quality acting.
I hear you. But
like
this movie was supposed to be it says the New Blood, but this was supposed to be their attempt at trying something new and innovative to kickstart a dying franchise. So they created a pretty good story.
No, yeah, it was pretty good.
And they just didn't bother developing it.
Yeah.
To the point where you would say, you know what? Out of the series, Part 7, pretty fucking solid movie. Instead, they're like, let's just make Part 3 again with more money in the effects. So it was like, it's just missed opportunity.
The thing about Part 7 that I don't think we've seen yet we've reached the point where they've got enough movies under their belt and enough character archetypes that they basically just like reintroduce characters we've already seen and assume that you fill in the gaps in the background. You know, there are really hardly any new characters in this movie. It's like, okay, Tina, now she's here at this house. Oh, good. Now she becomes the girl from part 4, the older sister of Tommy. Oh, hey, you got a handsome guy? He's handsome. He'll be handsome. Don't worry. You know, you got the blonde girl. She's mean. You got the other one. She's an ugly duckling. You know, they're just like, oh, you've seen this before in our previous movies. Now they're all in one little scenario. Choppy chop, stabby stab.
But see, they spent time trying to develop the ugly duckling when they could have spent that 5 to 8 minutes creating Tina into something. Like I rewatched Terminator 2 recently.
I agree, and I'm not expecting. At
the time I was.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah,
it's just been established for me that like that kind of stuff is just gonna be there.
Right.
Some things are gonna like pop up, and you know you're gonna think, oh, that might be significant later, and then it's not.
Right. It's laziness
for no reason. It's
right.
kind of like, you know, I forget who said it or whatever. You might have told me about it. You know, don't have when you're writing a play, don't have this certain item on the table, you know, in the first act unless it's going to be used by the third.
Like they say on stage, don't move when you're not doing anything because people are going to watch you to see if you're going to do something.
Right.
Right.
Those kinds of rules, they don't apply here. Like, this is a Jason movie.
True.
I honestly feel like I have to lower my IQ to watch this movie. I have to. I have to say, I just have to watch it and go, like, kind of like almost like I'm watching like Big Bang Theory or something, like where they tell you when to laugh. Like it, you know, you just like, okay, I'm just going to watch this. It's going to go in my eyes. It's going to go in my brain. That seems weird. Stop thinking. That seems weird too. Just stop thinking. Oh, killy kill stabby stab. That's cool. You know,
I
didn't think for the past 10 minutes.
He just did your phrase.
Did you just bazinga the Friday the 13th movies?
Maybe. I'm gonna drop my notes.
He did. He dropped them all. So, George, who would you say the main killer is of this movie?
Of the franchise, the director
of this movie.
Oh, sorry, the director.
Okay.
Dan?
What was the question?
That hurts me. John Carl Buechler is a heck of a stand-up guy. He's a hero to our franchise.
No, I was kidding. What was the question?
Who do you think is the main killer of this movie?
It's Jason, obviously.
See,
do you mean like killer, like
it's kind of rhetorical.
Person that made it bad?
Yeah, the MPAA basically killed this movie.
Yeah,
they
for sure.
completely butchered the hell out of this movie.
Well, they butchered the hell out of every one of them.
Yeah, but this, like, they took so many good things out of this movie that would have made it a lot better, and it's just.
And this one's a good one. Like 7 is a decent. It's a decent Jason movie.
This is you could watch this multiple times.
Yeah, this isn't a bad one.
Do you guys still have the disc in?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hop over to the special features real quick. All right, George, watch the slash scenes in the special features, and then we'll come right back and talk about it. So you've seen the kills, George. You've seen them expanded.
Mm-hmm.
You've seen the shoddy video quality from the set dailies because they've destroyed the 35mm negatives, supposedly, so we'll never get those enhanced in any way, which is a shame.
Someone has them in their basement.
I hope so, but you know, the thing about this movie that really irks a lot of hardcore fans, obviously they knew not all of that was going to make it into the movie. But nobody had the foresight to think maybe we could just do a director's cut on home video at some point. An idea that is going to hit hard with Part 9. They're going to learn their lesson from Part 7, but too late. And Part 9, you're going to get the theatrical release and then the expanded super gory for home video release.
Right.
Part 8 in the middle is going to suffer because they haven't yet figured out the solution to the Part 7 problem. So instead of having a bunch of gore cut, they're just not going to shoot any gore, which is a shame.
And they didn't have the foresight to think, okay, we can use this later.
Right, because
kind of like when we destroyed all of our toys and now we find out they're worth hundreds of dollars.
Right, we gave away all our Batmans and we could have eBayed them and paid off the house. Damn it.
Yeah, that kind of sucks.
Yeah, they're not thinking, Blu-ray release. Now everything is a director's cut. No,
Yeah,
no.
I mean, now it seems like every movie that you like, I don't know of a DVD that isn't a director's
Yeah.
cut.
You would
Like-
think they would have learned from King Kong. Like, it goes as far back as, 33.
Yeah,
30.
that's why I'm surprised.
Yeah.
Like, director's cut wasn't around. Like,
There was a lot of things they took out of King Kong because they were considered obscene, and a bunch of cans were surfaced somewhere. Like, somebody saved the 35 millimeter, and they were able to restore it. But that shit just ended up in the trash. Someone had the wherewithal to say, you know what, I'm going to keep this somewhere. But I mean, that's all deleted scenes that back in the day it just ended up on the floor, and then somebody swept it into a can.
yeah,
Threw it away.
nowadays it's like no brainer. Keep everything.
Absolutely,
You know?
especially with the Blu-rays.
Well, and it's so different now shooting so much of this on digital because you get spoiled by the unlimited storage capacity, whereas 35 millimeter was expensive enough that if you wasted it and didn't get it into the movie that made you money, it was considered just lost revenue. It was just an expense you didn't need to do. So for part 7, they have all these great kills, and the studio is seeing it as you wasted our money on all this film you didn't use, and the effects, and the cost of the practical, and the cost of the stuntmen. And, all these costs add up to just a total loss. Whereas now we would see it as, well, we knew we couldn't get that through the theater, but now our VOD and Blu-ray sales are higher.
Right.
So a lot has changed since 1987.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Even if you just look at the quality of what we have left, it's just like the VHS quality, untouched, no lighting adjustment, no color timing dailies. Ooh. But at
Ugh.
least we have those. To see Ben get his head squished down to the size of a walnut.
Aw.
Ben is funny because he's, I think, the first male victim of an abusive relationship I've seen in a slasher movie to this point. And really, they're
That's
the
usually
most
the guys.
they're the most abusive couple I've seen, I think, in any of the Jason movies to this point. Like, you really don't have intra-couple strife until you get those two, and she's just so mean to him. Yikes, Ben.
It's almost like he paid Jason to, make her eat that noisemaker.
Did you notice the
Well, she didn't
the honk?
She got it in the eye.
George, did
Yeah,
you
the
notice
honk.
the honk effect that they put in there when she gets hit? There's a real subtle, when she gets hit. It's so silly.
It's sounds like someone sat on Kermit the Frog. It's like,
No, I didn't know.
Go back and watch
That's
that when
fun-
we're
that's-
done.
That's funny.
It's
though.
really good.
uh,
But yeah, you don't really, I mean, there you go. There's your character development. It's just for no reason she's
yes.
mean to him, and she's mean to him so much.
I want to see that movie. Like, what was going on with them an hour prior?
And her outfit does not seem like an outfit a person would wear unless she was in a stage production of Oklahoma. I don't know why she would be wearing that outfit.
So we have that. We have Annie Oakley type character, and who's the other one you just said? MacGruber.
Oh, MacGruber. At least he's in the woods. Like,
Right.
maybe MacGruber looked at him and was like, you know who's cool? Dan from Friday the 13th Part 7. You're right, Will Forte. He is cool. Sort of.
Poor man's Will Forte.
I love Will Forte. It's so underappreciated.
Now, as they proceed through what, I don't want to say it's a thin plot, but what little bits of narrative they've actually thrown into this movie, you do get an excellent callback to the best character in Friday the 13th Part 3, the barn at Higgins Haven. Really cool to see Jason back in a barn, and there's some good cat and mouse action in there before a real abrupt ending. But I like barns in Jason movies. This is a good one.
And it kind of paid homage to The Fog, the way his arms came through the walls to take her. You're talking about yeah.
No, I didn't think about that. That's
where
a
she was
good
kind
point.
of standing there, and the two arms come through, and it reminded me a little bit of the Kevin Bacon kill as well.
It's funny.
It's a,
That's not the only John Carpenter reference in this movie. because they rip off the entire "go get me a beer"
Right.
down to the butcher knife. The dude gets stabbed with a butcher knife. You got your Michael in my Jason movie. I'm fine with it though, because that's the difference between that and say all of Friday the 13th Part 1 and 2 is that everybody knows Halloween, and so we're in on the joke. It's just a different thing when you're referencing a very commonly known to your audience scene. Probably half the people in that in the theater went, "Go get me a beer," and the other half were like, "What? No,
I'll be right back.
the movie's on."
That's funny.
See anything you like, Travis?
Oh yeah. Help me with this couch.
Oh man,
I'm gonna go put a sheet on.
there's no room for that couch in the van because as soon as one couple finishes banging and leaves, another couple gets in the van and bangs.
The van is a special place for
They've got a
teenagers,
giant
apparently.
house full of bedrooms, and they're all banging in a van. The same van. What
Down
the
by
hell?
the river.
I don't understand. Was that a thing in 1987? Listeners,
I don't know.
I need to know. If you had a house full of bedrooms, would you rotate who got to bang in the van? Was that like a thing? Please write us and let us
I know
know.
the Econo vans were really big back then. The like camper vans with the carpets.
But would you prefer that
That's
to a furnished bedroom?
I don't know.
I don't know. That seems weird.
I wasn't getting much action in '87.
I wasn't born yet.
Right. I was still playing head games.
Leave the crickets to develop on that one for a minute.
Yeah, it's fine. I'm used to it. That's why I got married young.
So I have a real concern. I don't know if you notice this, George, but Travis, I'm sure you notice this. Jason jumps through the window. We talked about that earlier. Doesn't make any sense, but it's cool looking.
Mm-hmm.
But then he laughs. Did you guys catch the Jason laugh?
No.
He comes through the window and there's this like, wah, 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 wah. Like, what the hell?
Oh, in the kitchen?
It's when he jumps through the window into the living room.
Yeah.
And he's like, ha, 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 ha. What? Like, what?
I think that was just the I think they took the and it was kind of like on a I don't know, they synthesized it.
So are you saying that was super diegetic sound, not diegetic sound?
Yeah. I don't know if it was a laugh. That would be pretty funny.
You go back and watch it. It's a Jason
Sounds
laugh.
like it.
I hate it. I hate it so much.
I'm already going.
He's
I'm
coming to
already
it right
going
now.
there.
Is it the scene where she telepathically puts the tables in front of the door?
I think it's a little bit before that. It's right as she realizes that he's Jason, which I still don't understand how she figures out that he's Jason, because never once do we establish that she has the ability to read thoughts with these telepathic powers. I mean, if she's telekinetic, obviously.
Yeah.
Because she's moving stuff with her brains. But never once does it establish that she could read thoughts, because if she could, she wouldn't keep falling for the doctor's BS, right? Like, this whole movie wouldn't take place. So how does she just go, oh, it's Jason? Like, what? I tripped up on that. I didn't know what to think.
All right, so she's electrocuting him with her mind.
It's right here.
Yeah,
It's right before here. Which is a really cool image of him.
That whole
Just
scene
with the-
outside, great.
In the pond or the puddle?
Yeah, the puddle
infamous Crystal Lake puddle?
Yeah, there you go. It's a callback to part 2. We got our puddle back.
Yeah.
A reference
Well,
puddle.
don't they reference that? When do they have is it the beginning of this movie where the wallet is floating in
All
the
right,
puddle?
hold on.
That's part 6. And for anybody that wants to follow along at home, this scene took place at about the 1 hour, 14 minute, and about 15 second mark. Just a little bit after that.
Yeah, it's like that.
It's like a Jason laugh. I don't like it.
Yeah.
Take it back.
I love the light. The lighting in this scene is amazing. It reminds me of my favorite part of Nightmare Part 2, which we'll cover when we watch that at one point. The backyard pool party. I love that scene.
That's a good movie. Yeah, the lighting in this movie is consistently good, and I like their version of Friday Part 3's everybody gets a color and you have to stick to it so you can keep track of the characters thing. Like they execute, it's the same plan. They just execute it in a less haphazard way, except of course Annie Oakley never did understand that outfit.
It's like the Marty McFly outfit when he goes in the Western.
But I think the difference is simply color timing. Like when they go to post-produce the movie, they had to amp up the colors to make the 3D work, but since they're not bothering with that, they can leave them in a more naturalistic way. So everybody's got their color, but it's not like bleeding into your eyeballs off your TV screen like it was in part 3. Not a fan of Jason's laugh, though. What the heck, guys? But
I never thought of it as that. I always thought it was just like a drawn-out version of the
But then he kills that Melissa girl in
Good shit.
maybe the best scene in a Jason movie since part 4. Like the kinetic energy of that scene as he busts through and does all this stuff. Her attitude being so flippant right to the end, and then him just like haphazardly throwing her body into the... I mean, it's just like...
He one-arms her about 12 feet.
It's
over
really
a TV.
good.
It was a really satisfying kill.
Yeah, it's like
I have to say.
when what's his name is killed in Texas Chainsaw. It's like, yes.
Yes.
Just kill him, please. I'm tired of it.
Now, do you mean the guy in the wheelchair that pees on himself?
Yeah.
See, now
yeah.
I would compare that kill and you guys' criticism of it last time. Maybe it was in the part 2 episode. You guys criticized the chainsaw kill in the wheelchair because you couldn't see it very well. I would compare that kill to the death of the doctor in this one. Where it's like you really wanted to see it and they just couldn't give it to you for whatever reason.
Why couldn't they give Dr. Cruz the hatchet to the head kill? That would have been sweet. I think people would have been more satisfied with that.
Why does Jason go through like 10 minutes of this movie playing show and tell with garden implements?
I don't think he does.
Just like, look what I found, look what I found, look what I found, stab, look what I found, look what I found, look what I found.
Are you talking about the road spike on the wall?
No, it's like he shows up, kills the mom with some weird like machete knife on the end of a pole. Like I don't know what that is.
Yeah, it's for like trimming branches.
Like he
It's
spent a day at Home Depot and he's like, I'm gonna do some killing today.
Right, he got a gift card for his birthday and he has all these fun new tools because they're all brand new looking. And then the idea that he could manage to even start the rotating like circular saw attached to a weed eater thing, that was bizarre too. I mean, maybe they just had like a tree trimming business on the side, and so they had all these kind of,
Is that all stuff he maybe found in the barn?
I don't
after
know.
He killed the ugly duckling.
It's just so weird that he keeps popping
I like
up
how
with
he
new
keeps
stuff.
going back to the barn though to
Yeah.
get different implements.
It's
of
like
destruction.
a video game where he's got like a cache of weapons and he just kind of goes and checks the trunk.
I thought it was hilarious to see the doctor use the mom as a human shield. That's a really good character moment.
Such a dick.
Like it cements him as exactly what we thought he was. But I also thought it was a missed opportunity because you could have done a standing version of the Bay of Blood, right? So you get the mom and then you just keep going and get him too and have a standing shish kebab.
Yes.
That would have been amazing.
And he probably could have picked both of them up. It would have looked cool if he kind of put it through both of them and then picked them both up off their feet. I wouldn't have been against that.
I mean, then he could just like take a baseball stance and like swing and they could fly off and
swing.
The crowd roars from the distance. You're like, where'd that crowd come from? I don't know, but this movie's cool. So,
And there's cardboard cutouts of everybody sitting there because no one can go and watch in person.
our 2020 remake is not going to be very fun.
It's going to suck. Jason will be mopey because there's nobody to kill because no one can go camping.
What'd you think of the final fight there, George? I know in your notes you said it was, dope or fly or some term for younger people. But
yeah, I said it was lit.
Lit.
It was lit.
I mean, it was
loved it.
literally
It was
lit
fire.
at times. There was fire involved in that fight.
And it was dragged out. Like that's...
Yeah, it paid off pretty good.
Yeah.
I liked it. That's one of my things I really can't stand is when a real like a major character goes out like a wimp and it doesn't get drawn out. And this girl was different. She's not just a limping, running,
Damsel.
screaming girl. Like she actually gives Jason what for, like,
Yep.
and wins. Really, I mean, the very end is what I had a problem with, which we need to talk about because I have no idea, like, why they chose that, how the very, very end of this is even acceptable in any way. But no,
It
but
made
as
no
far
sense.
as the girl, Tina, fighting Jason with her mind, that was beautiful. I really liked it.
You know what my favorite part of the whole fight is? And there's a lot of good parts, right? The reference puddle from part 2 making a comeback and zapping him, just give him what for, and the lighting him on fire part's really fun, and the face
Squishing his
head, tying him up with the thing. All these fun things are cool. My favorite part, and they do it 2 or 3 times, is when you see Jason hulking and primal and breathing heavy and tough and rotten and tough and zombie and brr. Look around like, oh my God. There's real good, like, either confused or just genuinely frightened Jason, which you've never seen before and probably won't ever see again. That was cool. That was cool as hell.
I remember thinking through this entire fight, doesn't she see that there's a chain still around his neck? Like, can't she move the chain?
Sure, yeah.
You know, couldn't she manipulate the chain to choke him or to...
She did it to what's her name?
Or to, the pearls, right?
Pearls, yeah.
She could have done that with Jason's chains around his neck and just twisted it or pushed picked up the chains with her mind and threw them across the room, and Jason goes with him.
Instead, she wanted to break the mask, show his face.
But that's the kind of, like, the inconsistencies that I'm thinking of, that are really, like, I had to tell myself, just stop thinking about it. Just let it go. Just watch a movie.
Yeah, like, you didn't make it.
Like, why isn't she using the chain that's around his neck? Just pick up that chain and throw it across the room. Jason goes with it. But
it's possible. They didn't. I think that just was.
Or choke him with it.
Yeah, it was
or
like one of those
attach him
things
to
where
something and burn it.
It just looks cool, and they probably never even thought of that. Sadly.
Yeah.
I mean, you just watched a movie where Jason threw a potted plant with a severed head in it at somebody.
Yeah.
I mean, this movie had almost everything. It was a near Stefan.
Including the 20-year-old dead father who looks like he just rolled out of bed.
Do you think we should talk about the ending, guys?
I think
Yes,
we should.
please. What the hell?
George is taking us down that road.
Well, as you saw when you watched the deleted scenes, they shot it with him being like zombie dad coming out of the water.
Okay, still not better.
And the
But,
test
okay.
audiences were like, wait, who the hell is that guy? Because
Mhm.
it didn't look like the dad anymore. So the producers were like, well, we're going to reshoot it and we're going to make him look just like pristinely like he was when he got dragged under under the dock that collapsed earlier. And so they did. And then that was what they went with.
It's actually even more maniacal than that. They actually removed the shot from the shooting schedule. Didn't even converse with the director. The producers came in and just took it off the schedule. They're like, yeah, we're not going to do that anymore. Because he had other plans, because they had told him, they didn't like what it looked like. So they just kind of just scrapped it. And then he had to go back in and reshoot the ending that we see. Because there was no climax. There was no, final say in the dad. Like, he had to do something, so he wound up doing that. But to me, I think they should have just sat down on the drawing board and said, okay, this is what we want to do. We want to get Jason back in the water. How do we do it without the resurrected dad? Because to me, it was just terrible.
Yeah, what the dad looked like is beside the point. The fact that the dad
did it
is even there
Yeah.
is like, that's a problem.
Well, but you get into another thing where it's like you have this super powerful character who could just do it herself. But then it
Right.
becomes a thing of like, well, if she's so powerful that she can, throw him back under the lake and chain him down again, why didn't she do that earlier? Would we have a movie if she's overpowered? Like, at some point, I don't know. It's a cop-out ending for a cop-out movie.
Well, how would you end that? How would you get him back in the lake?
Well, here's exactly how Dan would fix it.
I wouldn't, because he wouldn't be invulnerable if I was the director. Or
Well, that's why you don't
Well,
get to play.
I think a lot of the suits.
This is why it's called Dan Fixes It, George. It's not George
the
Fixes
suits have
It.
already decided.
Now, here's what you do. You've got your movie made. You're right at the end, and you're like, oh, God, we got to end this thing. You throw the handsome guy in the boat, which they do in this. It's a good misdirect, because you're like, ooh, they're going to do the Tommy Jarvis ending. No, they're not. Here's what you do. Telekinetic Tina, double T, pulls the body of her dad out of the lake, and Freddy Krueger puppet shows that mug around Jason and uses her dad's dead body to hold him under the water. Dad is dead. Leave Dad dead. That's the only way that you can explain him being involved with this at all. But then for that nice circularity, right? You bring it all back home to poor Dad under the dock. Use Dad's reanimated with telekinesis corpse to pull and hold Jason underwater.
Okay.
That's how you fix it.
I would fix it by having Tina Magneto Jason's skeleton out of his body. That would have been fucking
Just
amazing
pull
to
his
see.
limbs off.
No, just it would have been kind of a callback to Nightmare on Elm Street in a way. There's stuff that happens where they could have done a really cool thing where she destroys him with her power and then like has his bones buried somewhere, like in a vault, like totally concreted, so he's not coming back. Totally more believable than the dad coming out of the water. Definitely. And it would have looked cool. And it would have been a nice homage to Ray Harryhausen. Nice little stop motion skeleton being pulled out. Would have been cool. I don't know.
There really isn't an
I
easy
guess-
way to fix it because it's so ludicrous that you did this in the first place.
Right.
I mean,
you could have
unless
pulled them apart. but-
what you could do, if you don't like my reanimated dad puppet idea, you could have him chase her all the way back to like the local high school, and then they could interrupt a senior. You know what? Forget it. That's a bad idea. We probably shouldn't. It's a bad idea. You know what I did love at the end, though? I know that the ending with the dad sucks, but I think everybody knows it sucks. Like, even the people making it are just like, you know what? We got to get this in the can, and then we'll do something better next time.
Mm.
I love the play on Where's Paul at the end, where she wakes up and she's like, Nick,
Right.
you know, and you're like, oh, God, here we go again. But then the EMT's just like, oh, he's fine. And then they put him in the ambulance together, and you're like, oh, everybody's fine. Like, that was so fun. That was a good, aware way to end a movie.
And it's not a final girl. It's now two.
It's a final couple. They can go have final
Final couple.
babies.
Hey.
And one of them can catch the Jason mania and be the next Jason.
The whole body jumping thing.
Yeah,
Ugh.
the mania.
I don't think they'll ever do
No,
that.
that's George. Calm down. Body
That's
jumping.
Crazy. That's crazy
That's
talk.
a different franchise, bro.
Not body jumping. Not body jumping. I'm talking about it's a mania.
I
It's
mean, the way you're
a
describing it.
mental. It's a mental problem. It's like.
I hear you, brother.
It's like Tommy's PTSD makes him kill. It's not really Jason. It's just the mania that infects you when somebody who already has the Jason mania goes on their
That's
Jason
where they
killing
were
spree.
going, but the audience told them
The
not
audience sucks.
to. Yes. When 5 ended and they were going that route, no more Jason. It's now a ideology.
Yes.
The fans said, "No, we want Jason." So then they make Resurrected Jason.
Nah.
Yeah, that's where it happened.
You know, George.
Yeah.
That's where they were heading.
No, yeah, that's where it happened. Yeah, that's exactly the point where I would go
people
back
spoke.
to and redo it.
I know.
So, George, if you were to go back and redo part 5, would you leave part 5 the way it was, and then part 6 would be the reign of PTSD Tommy? So, like, the Batman Begins version, right? The Jonathan Demme Silence of the Lambs version is like suffering from a certain kind of traumatic stress that then like leads them down a road of violence. But like the 80s monster movie version would be like their flesh like the Jason flesh body is gone, but the spirit has moved to Tommy, and his flesh body is gonna be killing till it fails, and then whoever kills him is gonna. Is that what we're going for here in the George version of this?
I think George would have been less happy with the Frankenstein Jason, and more of a Wolfman Jason, where it's like a mantle being passed.
He might
down.
need to watch The Howling.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh yes, we're watching The Howling, definitely. But yeah, it's like almost that burden mentality. You want it to be, because they touched on it twice. Because I know the ending of part 4, young Tommy, baby Tommy, has that stare at the end.
Yeah, when
that blank stare.
when Dan said, at the end of part 5, would you have let that be? And I wouldn't have had that end of part 5 because my part 5, Tommy Jason would have been Jason already.
I see. So you
because young Tommy already had the predisposition to get infected by that
the mantle.
Jason mania,
yeah.
whatever it is. Yeah. So,
but you're not talking about like some kind of a strange entity that would move from body to body.
No, I'm just talking about your PTSD, or you don't really ever explain it. It's just, Jason keeps coming back, and we keep killing him, and he keeps coming back.
if it's even Jason,
it's always these it's always these different people. How do we get rid of the soul of Jason from this earth?
You're thinking more like the Gotham TV show version of the Joker, where it's kind of like a mantle that is created by a situation, and people become the Joker based on their situation. They take that mantle, they pick it up, and they live it.
Yes.
the anti-bat.
they're not
is
that
what
person.
That is. It's just the anti.
What is that?
The anti-bat. Like the bat is
Right.
the same thing. Batman may not always
Right.
be Bruce Wayne because of the mantle.
Which they kind of touched on because part 5 is a copycat Jason. But again, through lack of character development, they didn't explain him enough for you to understand why he went through all that.
They
put
did
that
a really cheap copycat
Yes.
Jason, whereas if that was a Tommy Jason,
right.
that it would have been a much more meaningful Jason.
I agree. But I am such a fan of Zombie Jason.
I do love Zombie
I mean-
Jason. I do think that your idea has merit, George, and I hope that someday we get to explore it. But for now, I think we need to stick with our theme of the night, which is part 7 and 8 of Friday the 13th. So, George, if you were in charge right now, it's part 7, it's out, it's making money, people dig it. Where do you go from here?
To New York, obviously.
Is that where you go? You go to New York?
Wow.
Yeah.
You're pretty good.
good. 2 for 2, George. You're 2 for 2.
It's like you watched it.
Is that where he goes?
What?
Somehow he gets out of a lake and heads to New York.
He goes to Vancouver, guys. Beautiful mountains. All right, so join us in part 2 of this exploration as we follow Jason from Crystal Lake to Vancouver, via New York. It's a whole mess, but we love it, sort of. And he's slimy, so that's fun. This has been the Remedial Film Class Podcast. As always, you can find us on Twitter and Instagram at Remedial Film Pod. You can find us at facebook.com/Remedial Film Pod. And, of course, you can email us, remedialfilmpod@gmail.com. We'll see you back here for the next edition in New York.